meeting is being recorded. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. Karen, do you have the slides up? You're on mute, Karen. Well, Karen gets the slides up. I'll just introduce myself real quick. My name is Zach Ellinger. I'm a fire prevention and education specialist for the Bureau of Land Management at BLM, California. And I'm also the co-chair of the National Fire Prevention Education Committee with Fred Turk. And I'm also a fire prevention education team leader. And I'll be talking to you a little bit about FireNet and just trying to get past some of the technological challenges that we've had over the past couple of years with FireNet, and trying to establish, like, I don't know, where to go and what to do, and just try to take some of the ambiguity out of it so that everybody is comfortable working in the system. So one of the first things I'll do is share my screen after we get the presentation. Karen's got a couple slides, and then we're gonna I'll be sharing my screen, and then she'll be resharing her screen. Karen, you want me to keep? I'm not seeing the presentation quite yet, and you're on mute. Still don't have you. Karen's having technical difficulties. Hey, Karen, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just jump right into some FireNet tutorial stuff, and then we'll see if we can get the presentation rolling here in a bit. So, so here's what FireNet looks like for most folks. Is everybody seeing my screen? Can I get a?
Not yet, Zach. Still seeing you. There we go. Now
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, cool. So here's what FireNet looks like for most folks when they get in. You'll see this main fire prevention, national fire prevention team here. So if you're a fire prevention team leader, your name has already been added to this list, or if you're a team member, we tried to get as many people as possible. If for some reason you haven't gotten an email from us over the past couple of years since we've been using FireNet, and your name is not on this list and you do not have access to FireNet, please let me know and we'll get you added to this list. There's 111 members and guests as of now. And I have a suspicion there are some more folks out there that were missing. So please send me your contact information. A caveat, you do not have to have a named FireNet account to access FireNet. I'm going to show you guys that here in a second. But the first, and all the fire prevention team leaders that we have as of now, who are active on the schedule, should have named FireNet accounts. So we have like double backed up security there. But this is the first screen that you're going to see when you log into Microsoft Teams and you click on the National Fire Prevention Education Team. When you click on this drop-down menu, it'll give you a number of options. Managing team brings you to this page right here where you can search for team members and, more importantly, add team members. So if you have people working on your team who don't have a FireNet account or have never been into FireNet, all you have to do is enter their email into this group right here, and they will pop up eventually. You would add them, and they'd be then getting an email where they could follow instructions on how to access FireNet. But there's a couple other steps that you'll have to do before that. And so I'm going to jump into that next. So after you've added somebody to FireNet, they're going to get an email. You're not going to want them to click on that email yet, because what you're going to want to do as somebody who already has access to the system is to go into SharePoint. So you go over to these little 9 dots over here. You scroll down until you see SharePoint. Sometimes you have to look for all apps, and you click on the SharePoint app. If you don't have any other sites that you use SharePoint for, you probably won't see anything here, and you'll have to search up here. You'll have to search National Fire Prevention Education Team here, and you'll click on that, and that'll take you to this page right here. Once you get here, you'll have an opportunity to follow the page, and so this is really important. Clicking on this little star right here will make it so that it pops up for you in the future, and you won't have to do that search every time. So once you're following the National Fire Prevention Education Team SharePoint site, then you want to scroll down to documents. Now, just this week, I've had a lot of folks having trouble with this is the current assignment that I'm on, and some of the documents we've been working with. This activity right here will really throw you off. So don't look there for anything, because it moves around depending on who's clicking on what. The way to find something is to click on documents, and then it will pull up this, and this is the list of all of the documents for the team site. The system that we have right now is that every time we have a new fire prevention team, we have somebody create a channel in the main team site. And there's two different ways to do this. So say you're on assignment, you get there, you're ready to start your file structure in FireNet. You go to Teams, you click on the National Fire Prevention Education Team, and you can either create a channel and name it what your fire prevention team is. So in this case, I would add a channel and I would call it Southwest Team 2022 Southwest Team 2. I know that that's kind of a loose naming convention, but that's what we have to go with for now. Or you can go over to the SharePoint site, which I was just at, and you can add it there also. We'll talk about that. So you click on National Fire Prevention Education Team, Documents, and you can add a new folder here. If you already have a folder established or you're trying to add one of your team members, and that's where this whole conversation is going, if you're trying to add one of your team members, you hit share and you add their name here. And this is the only way that you're going to be able to get somebody who doesn't have a named FireNet account already to get access to the files and folders. So you'll add that person to this folder. And then from that point forward, here's our current assignment. 2022 Southwest FPET. This is our file structure. I could, if I only wanted somebody messing in one of these folders, I could just give them permission to just one folder, but I've given access to the whole team to the entire folder, so they have access to all the articles and that stuff. So that's really what I wanted to go over with folks. That's the process to get a folder started in FireNet. I'm sorry if that was redundant for some people, but you know, we had a learning curve this time around on the assignment that I'm on now, and so I wanted to go through it with everybody so everybody could see that process. And Fred, that's what I've got. I think Karen probably was still having technical issues, so we may have to move on.
I'm
Oh, you're
good.
good.
I just need you to stop sharing. I can't share.
Aha. Okay,
Let's try this.
let's try this.
Okay. All righty, you got me?
We will
Almost.
shortly.
I think you got to
Okay.
click one more thing.
It's a long way from Oregon to Virginia.
Says I'm screen sharing, so yeah, it is a while. Let me know when it comes up.
There you are.
Okay, all right, now we're doing this a little triad here. That was the middle of our presentation, so I apologize for our snafu here. And we just wanted to give you just a quick background, and you can all watch this later. We are recording it, so you can watch it and slow us down if you need to catch all these nuances, because there's a lot of information today. We did have looked hard at the 2020-2021 FPET activity, the final reports, evaluations, outbriefs, and host unit interviews. Some of those were with a concentrated prevention team just looking internally and then continuing to review the products and outputs. Those revealed some of the patterns with difficulty in tracking the budgets and consolidating the budget information for year-end reports and things like that. I know I was hounding some of you recently to try to do some consolidation. The need for a common operating picture, documents and products, you know, being created and stored in various formats and software versions, that's been a persistent issue the last several years actually. And the difference now where we've really grown and expanded and tested out on-scene virtual and hybrid assignments really requires that common file storage that's both accessible to everybody from all walks of life and at the same time secure, and ultimately resulting in a long-term investment with the host units so that things can be assimilated, you know, the outputs from the prevention team investment into local units. So like Zach said, just back to FireNet being the solution, this has actually been around since 2018 and 19 and continuing to be affirmed each year and then continuing to make innovations and improvements. And we got on board a little bit late. We're just very different from regular incident management teams and dispatch, but we have all of the problems, if not more variety on a smaller, more intense scale. So back to just a little refresher on what FireNet is. You know, it's been sanctioned and endorsed by the National Wildfire Coordinating Group. And so that's all the federal and state wildland agencies and cooperators. So it's not anything isolated or individual. It's NMAC and it's NWCG. So we're all getting on board with that for a lot of good reasons. Okay, we hopped into the FireNet environment. Just a reminder to always open it with a Chrome browser and to remember to close anything else you have going on. And especially if you have bandwidth issues or access issues and you're multitasking, stop multitasking, get into Chrome and close down those other things that are taking away your capacity. And the ultimate goal is, the eye on the prize is discouraging the use of insecure online environments like Dropbox and Google Drive, which I know a lot of folks use, a lot of folks love, a lot of folks are really comfortable with, but ultimately trying to bring those things back to a platform where everyone can use them and access them is really difficult, and they're not secure. The agency systems, internal systems that are designed and approved for external collaboration, like SharePoint, OneDrive, and PinionBox, those are only a few that I'm familiar with. Mostly Forest Service and BLM use those. Maybe a place that you'll work on an assignment depending on the host unit or part or the team membership, but ultimately the final storage will be in FireNet. And then the bottom line there is that those files then remain available for future reference for all those that are concerned. So a few tips on how to keep things running smoothly. I've been on a lot of prevention teams since the late 90s when we started this, and I can tell you that almost every assignment, there's somebody that hits that gets high centered on a speed bump with a tech issue, and can take a lot of downtime. And we've all been there, and we've all had that painful experience. But don't wait until your assignment to test your equipment and your systems. Make sure you've got good network access, that your software is current. Clear your cache of all of your clutter. I have a reference for you in our storage. We'll tell you about later of how to do some of that cleanup. Invest in a good virus protection software and use it. If you don't have that, it costs a little money, but it'll keep you out of trouble. And always do good routine backup so that you've got, you don't lose everything. And I know plenty of people on here have had a complete loss of storage or files, or, had their hard drive wiped. And it spends, spending a lot of time on assignments is going to really slow things down. We're all using Teams and Zoom now on really a daily basis in the wildland agencies now. This is the way we communicate. So get comfortable on camera, test your mic, your background, make sure your clutter is gone, or if your refrigerator isn't in view. And there's lots of blurry backgrounds and pretty things you can put in there now, so you look more professional, and be self-sufficient. Don't lose valuable time. It's a short 2-week period on an assignment is not going to be enough to get things fixed and have equipment issues. So, and then let's see, Zach, I'll let you refer to these two pieces of FireNet, and then you can close us out.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so the reference documents and the main FPET team page. Let me share my screen again. Let's see if I can. There we go. Thank you. I didn't realize I had to stop sharing before.
I know, we're learning.
We learned something. So within this main folder that we were just talking about, there is this reference, exclamation mark reference material folder, and then there's FireNet and Teams tips. There's some stuff there, and then there's also another folder here. It says email attachments, and there's a bunch of useful information here about how to get FireNet set up, example file structures, 508 accessibility, all that stuff. So that's where we would point people to. I would also say that when you originally go into Teams, there is another folder that everybody has access to without anybody needing permission to get. And I'll show everybody that real quick. So that was SharePoint. If you go back to Teams and click on the files function of Teams, there is another set of documents that I can't see at the moment, but I know they're there. Let's try this. There we go. Files up here on the top. So last year's webinar and the P410 student thumb drive and references to all of that stuff can be found here too. So if for some reason you haven't been added as having been granted the SharePoint access, but you want to find that stuff and you are in Teams, you don't need anybody to access that for you. It's right there. So I'll stop sharing now, Karen, and pass it back to you.
Okay, I think that's good for us. Also that we have created a folder there for today's webinar materials and the references I was talking about, and the recording will be there as well. So we'll put that link in the end of the chat.
Okay. Great. Yeah, and I don't see any questions yet in the chat for you, so that's good. As I said, we're going to have this recorded and have contact information for the presenters. So, Jeff, did you join us? Jeff Moyer?
Yes, Fred, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. I didn't catch you when you were signed in. So, all right, I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Jeff Moyer, and I'll let him introduce himself and go with his presentation. Thank you, Jeff.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm on another call too, so sorry. Multitasking. My name's Jeff Moyer. I'm the regional fire prevention specialist for the BIA. I cover the Northwest and the Pacific region. The main thing I wanted to present today, or I don't have a PowerPoint or anything, I just want to kind of talk about the best practices when it comes to when we have to interface with incident management teams. You know, with the fire environment, a lot of times, you know, we work side by side. And one of the things that is important is that when we are interfacing in the area of fires, that we're checking in with the incident management team and mainly the PIO, and working together with them and looking at ways that we could both benefit the team itself and also the incident management teams, because there's functions that they can do that are really helpful, and there's functions that we can do for them that will help out. And one of the biggest things is just being aware, safety reason wise, why we want to check in with the teams there is just being aware of what the evacuation levels are. You know, if we have to, we shouldn't really be working in there when they're in level 2 or level 3 evacuations. So it's important that we have that dialect with the PIOs for the teams to ensure that we're doing our function safely and that we're accounted for when we're out there. Because I know sometimes we get down in the ground and, you know, think that we intersect a lot. And, you know, we had a kind of a lessons learned last year on one of our incidents where the prevention team was working reservation wide, and on the reservation there happened to be 2 incident management teams going on at the same time, and a large reservation, large jurisdictional area. And the prevention team was directed by the home unit to work in an area, and they started working in that area, which was a level 1 evacuation at the time. And when the PIO found out that from the team found out that the prevention team was working there, they thought they were working, you know, in the area of evacuation and stuff. And that stuff caused all kinds of havoc and stuff when it comes to the agency administrator and stuff. And it flew uphill, where if we would have went in and made the simple communication with the PIO from the team on what was going on the ground, we could save so much. And we might not have, you know, they've been working the area hard, so you run into the chances of the duplications of work. You know, it's all about how we work smarter, not harder. And it's important that we find a common ground to where both the prevention team and the IMT can service one another, because at the end of the day, they're there to work for that jurisdictional unit. So regardless of what the team PIO feels on the IMT are on the prevention team, we just need to make sure that we're doing our best service to the jurisdiction that's at hand. So at the end of the day, when we intersect with the IMTs, we just need to make sure that we're checking in and we're working together. That's all I had on that, Fred. It's just a short little spiel on it.
Good, Jeff. Thanks. We have a couple minutes here. If anybody has a question on IMT interaction for Jeff or anybody else on the cadre, we have a little bit. And I want to make sure that you're aware of the chat because several people have contacted Zach and he posted in the chat a response to your request about FireNet. So do we have any questions for Jeff? Okay, thanks, Jeff. Hearing none, we're gonna slide right into our next presentation on ordering and rostering with Andy Nesmith. Andy, are you there?
Yeah, Fred, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just a quick update. Rostering and ordering really won't change a whole lot in the upcoming year from the way we've been doing things. Florida will be doing things a little different here in the state. So let me back up, introduce myself. I'm Andy Nesmith with the Florida Forest Service. I am the fire prevention coordinator for the state. And we have here in Florida, I have 3 fully qualified team leaders, and I have 3 trainees that will be signed off here pretty soon. So we have a lot of teams in Florida, and what my administration has started to do with the Florida teams is when we go into the national rotation, and you'll see when they put out the list starting next year on the national rotation list, it won't list a specific team leader. It'll just say Florida. And then what we're doing is in state keeping a roster of who's available at what time. And I'll be keeping that roster so that when orders do come in, they'll come in through me, through our state office, and then I will filter down the orders from there. Just to keep things, a little more streamlined for our agency and the way that our administration is looking at doing things now. We've got an administration that weren't happy with the way things were done before, so we're just kind of changing the way we do things here in Florida. So any orders that come in, from another state or whatever, rather than going direct, they'll come direct to me, and then I'll filter them down from there to whichever team we have up in the rotation. So, and Fred, that's really all I had to cover on that for now, unless Maureen or anyone else has anything they want to add to rostering teams.
Thanks. Maureen or Zach, anything on rostering of teams? Yeah, I tell you, that sounds like an interesting, Maureen, I think you're on mute, Maureen.
Okay. No, here I am. I just wanted to mention that, as we do this schedule, it's important to keep that, when you sign, I know we sign up ahead of time. So please keep that handy when you get the final schedule, and, within, a month of your time, start to fill out your team. And it will be important for you to roster your team as a team leader according to your local dispatch rules. So that'll make sure everything goes smoothly. You'll have time to find alternate members if people are by chance happen to not be available, and just be able to, just have things organized a little bit ahead of time. Once you get an assignment, then you can determine need additional people, what other skills you might need, and then from your discussions with the ordering unit, then finalize your roster. But I think that will just stay in contact with your dispatch, that they are aware that when you're up and when your team's going to be available. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, good. Thank you, Maureen. I see Zach popped up. Yeah, Zach?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add, Fred. It's just that, as we try to have as much flexibility as we can to move things around, we don't like to do it at the last minute if we can help it. So just knowing when you're up on rotation and having at least your 3 core positions, your team member, your team leader, and your PIO rostered, and having that information to dispatch is very, very helpful. We can make changes afterwards, but it's less than ideal. So if you anticipate you're going to have an issue filling your spot on the schedule, just give me a pretty good amount of lead time, and I will work with you just as Maureen always did to help alleviate those lapses or gaps in coverage. But yeah, the schedule is a big commitment, and because we only have a 2-team depth on the schedule at any given point in time, it's really important that those 2 folks that have committed to those time slots are available to fill the slot when the order comes. So I'll leave it there, Fred. Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. And thanks, Andy. I mean, that sounds like a pretty interesting concept that you're going to float there in Florida. It probably works better for states than other units, especially states that have multiple options for prevention teams. So it's probably a little bit more work for you, but I think it's going to probably potentially, I think it sounds like a good option, because that kind of keeps, what resources you have at your home unit, and then which ones you can afford to go into the rotation. So looking forward to see how that plays out. So thanks. Okay, we're just gonna slide right into Maureen. We'll leave you up and there, and I'll get out of your way and turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Hello, everyone. I'm Maureen Brooks. I work for the U.S. Forest Service out of the Washington office, and I am the branch chief for wildfire prevention and community mitigation. I used to be the national coordinator for prevention teams for a while, and prior to that, I worked with several people several years ago to get the National Fire Prevention Education teams into the national resource system. So I've been working in and around teams for a long time. So I'm going to share my screen with you all. I have a little bit of a PowerPoint so we can talk about some things related to team management. So can you all see that?
Yes, we can, Maureen.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Fred. So this topic is about team management. It includes some reminders, some new information, but all really about best practices as the teams are going out and managing teams. So just some incident business reminders. We do have the standards for incident business, interagency incident business, which we try to follow within fire prevention education teams. So there is a, oh, I think I just went too far there, sorry. So, that is a document that you can find on the NWCG site for that you can reference when you need it. Some specific reminders: teams, our teams follow all the teams that the rules for time and working that any other fire resource does. So we stick to that. So we to be mindful of the work rest guidelines, and it is of course up to the responsibility of the team leader to make sure that no one goes over 16-hour days, that there is an 8-hour rest between shifts. Lengths of assignments, typically 14-day assignments. If there are extensions, you have to follow all the procedures, normal procedures for following extensions. So we ask that you do that. Driving regulations, we don't drive longer than 12-hour, we don't longer than a 12-hour day. So you need to follow all the driving regulations. I know you're out and about, and sometimes it can get, the days can get longer, but if you're in a situation where you might be working over a very large area, might need to maybe do some planning and prioritizing, and might have to get a hotel, but safety is always our top concern, so please be mindful of that. Speaking of safety, the health and safety of all our personnel is a priority on any incident that we are on. I don't have to tell you, but we still are working under we're working with and around COVID-19. So it is important that not only the team lead, but the members also stay updated on all the latest information about how we operate in coronavirus. The NWCG on their main page has a link to nwcg.gov/coronavirus, which has all of the guidance that you need. They keep that up to date. We are currently following the CDC guidelines based on there are community levels as far as whether it's mask wearing and screening, but if you have to screen, you will find the screening tools on the nwcg.gov/coronavirus page. So please, have that handy and follow the guidance as noted. It's important when you, as for team leads, as you are communicating with the ordering unit, it's important that you discuss and be prepared to follow the ordering agency guidelines. Typically, if you're in a place where people have to wear masks, then we have to wear masks. It doesn't matter where you are, like if your unit at home is not, but keep that in mind. Have masks handy when you go out, in the case that you might have to use them. As always, it is good common sense to practice social distancing and physical distancing. Maintain good hygiene throughout your assignment. Washing hands and cleaning and disinfecting go a long way to not just protect us from coronavirus, but many other germs and bacteria that might be out where we are. So please, please follow good hygiene at your workplace, in your vehicles. As I mentioned earlier, mask wearing and screening is now based on community levels, and you can find that information in the guidance that's on the NWCG webpage. The CDC is identifying all the communities as whether it is low, moderate, or high, and then there is specific guidance for mask wearing for each one of those levels. So keep that in mind. You may want to visit that prior to getting an assignment, just so you're aware of what potentially might have to do. And then the other guidance that is out is to keep up to date on vaccinations and boosters. We wanted to talk a little bit about remote/virtual FPET support, as we, regardless, whichever way you want to call it. We could have hybrid teams, or we have some people who are on site, some people who are virtual, to some people, and maybe the whole team is virtual. We just recently had a virtual CMAT team that worked. So these best practices would cover all of those. So we have decided that we will continue, just like the rest of the fire community, to provide in-person and remote support. to ordering units, so we're still going to do that. As team leads, it's important that that's another item to discuss with the ordering unit when you get the call that they're ordering, they want to order your team. What are the needs of that ordering unit? It is, there is some discretion up to them of whether they determine that there needs to be some or all people on site, or it could be a virtual team. It's important to include that in your delegation of authority as you work through the details of what the ordering unit wants for your assignment. When you're establishing this team, when you know that you're going to have some virtual members of the team, it's important when you select those as you're working through that you have that you try to cover all the skill sets that you might need for that assignment with your virtual membership. We suggest having folks who have broad skill sets. They might need some overlapping between the people who are on site or not on site. There are opportunities to use trainees, and I think you would want to have some strong prevention team members when you're mentoring those new trainees when you're in a virtual situation. And keep in mind that local team members can be very valuable to your team when you're working in a hybrid situation. So there may be team people on the unit that could be trainees, and they can be extremely valuable to the whole team mission. So keep that in mind, and that may be something you need to negotiate with the ordering unit. Some other best practices, things to keep in mind. So regardless of whether you have a hybrid team, all virtual or on-site, all administrative functions that we that happen on a team remain the same. There's and you want to establish some standard operating procedures early in the assignment, especially if you have people that are working remote, so that you have a good line of communication. Everyone knows where the approvals come and what approvals are, how the approvals work, what meeting schedules. So trying to schedule meetings that work for everyone, but also remember you're following the time zone of the host unit. Documentation, who's going to do that, where it is, make sure everyone on the team knows where that. As I mentioned earlier, of course, work rest guidelines still need to be followed. And using, even if people are working at home, they still need to follow the work rest guidelines. You may have some part-time remote members that have specialized skills, like a graphics person. Maybe some PIOs might work for you, for your team. You have the opportunity to use an intermittent status when you on their resource order if you know that they're going to be part-time the whole time. And with that, I want to mention, I'll back up one just to mention this. As far as the intermittent or people working at home, it's just like working on the assignment. You don't want them doing dual work, their regular program of work, if they're supposed to be working for the team or the host unit, or make sure that and that's where work rest guidelines come in, I think, with our folks working remotely, but they are supposed to focus their time on the team assignment that they're resourced for. So team interaction is really going to be important in this. So it's important that you help to establish a good teamwork amongst yourselves. It'll be important to keep on track with progress, work progress, coordinating efforts, how team members communicate with one another, will be essential to keeping all the work moving and accomplishing the needs of the host unit. And I mentioned this before, local fire prevention resources about being valuable members of a prevention team. I mean, we know that even if you're bringing a team in, it really helps to, have the local prevention folks as SMEs, or to use them or bring them on as trainees to help build that local capacity for the units that you're working for. And finally, I want to get down to evaluating the performance. So in FireNet, there is a folder that has these performance rating forms in them, and it's important that on every assignment that the team members are all evaluated by the team leaders. And that they go home, you should be going home with an evaluation, and you need to provide that to whoever records your, keeps track of your qualifications. The team leader will be evaluated by the host unit, the person who is that you're working for, and that's a valuable tool. Those are both valuable tools for improving our skills, improving performance in future assignments. And finally, we do have a fire prevention education team assignment evaluation. So it's evaluating the entire team. This is done by the host unit, and it should be a copy of it should be kept with the host unit, and a copy should also be sent to the national coordinator by the team leader after when the evaluation is complete. But this helps us to we use it for lots of reasons. One of them is to determine what training we might need to provide. We also it helps us to identify like what type of job aids might be needed out in the field for you all. So it is valuable information, and if there's something, we can even identify where we might see something lacking in training that we might need to provide in the team leader or the team member course. So do ask your host units to fill out those evaluation forms before you leave, and help. I think that helps bring the program along very well. So I do have time for some questions, if anybody has any questions on anything that I presented.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen. We do have some time, and I probably unchecked the box or checked the wrong box setting up the meeting. I'm realizing that the participants can only chat with me.
Oh, okay.
So,
There you go.
we do have some questions in the chat box I would like to get to.
Okay.
Since we have a little bit of time, and some may go to you or to another presenter. So let me back up and see where we are. Okay, here's a question. How are reasonable accommodations being handled when vaccinations are handled? Vaccination share being handled.
Okay.
So
If
reasonable
I understand.
accommodations.
Okay. Well, that has to be done at the home unit, the reasonable accommodation request. If someone, the initial request has to be done at the home unit. And that's then the result of that would determine what the person can do. I did ask the question. I did ask the question this morning about vaccinations, where we stand on that this year, and I was told from my dispatch office that the official is that we are on hold. So that's two answers really to one question, but reasonable accommodations have to be decided at the home unit before a team leader can do anything as far as identifying that person for it's just going to depend on what the answer is there on the RA.
Okay, thanks, Maureen.
Anybody,
Um,
I mean, that's the best answer I have, so I apologize if that's not perfect.
All right, and then we have another question about, let's see here. A roster of, yeah, they want to know about is there the roster of PETLs, PTMs, PIOs? Somebody says they don't have access to IROC, talking about trying to build out teams. Zach, do you want to maybe handle that, or Maureen?
I think we can tag team this one, Fred. This is something that we've been working on for a little while. There's the answer is there's no easy access to those kind of lists unless you've got access to IROC or IQCS. We don't maintain a list of folks who are qualified or trainees of PETLs, PETMs, or PIO2s. There's just simply that product doesn't exist. We'd love to have it, but we don't have the person power to maintain a list like that or keep it updated. I understand there have been a couple attempts at that at some point, but we really just don't have that capacity. So it's all about networking and understanding what skills you think you might need for an assignment prior to the assignment, and then honing in on trying to find people with those skills as the date of the assignment approaches. And Maureen, I'll turn it over to you because I think you probably have a similar but more comprehensive answer.
Well, yeah, the only I will agree with Zach. We don't maintain a comprehensive list. We do, however, we do get a list from dispatch every Monday at 3 a.m., something like that. It comes in of all the people who are listed in IROC as available. So that's team leads, members, and trainees for both. So if people have their status updated in there as available, we get a list every, like I said, once a week, every Monday. And we use that because we use that when there are no teams available. That gives us a starting point to determine, I mean, that's how we've used it in the past. The other way that we have assisted team leaders, if they are having difficulty finding team members, then we can send an email out to the geographic area coordinators and ask them to provide their folks on their list the information that we are looking for, whatever resource we're looking for. And we typically get answers back pretty quick. So we can help out the team leader that way. Who might be available for, I'll say July 1 and July 14. And, and then we can assist the team leader that way.
Thank you. All right, we have another question about, are some of the opportunities going to be virtual based on the potential of current COVID protocol and spikes in localities? And I'll answer that one. I think Maureen, it's totally up to the host unit. When they're trying to determine if they need a team or they were requesting a team, that's something that we're going to get, upfront, find out, do they want an on-site team, or are they willing to take a virtual team and or an off-site team? And then we'll deal with that. So I think the answer is a mix. I think we're going to see a mix this year, just as we did last year.
I would agree to that, Fred. And just to give an example of I mentioned we had a CMAT team out, and they did travel to the assignment, but then a team member contracted COVID and they ended up going back home and working virtual. So I think flexibility and, we aren't gonna, it's gonna hard to have any hard and fast rules, but I think if you're on the schedule and you get a call, that's certainly on the, you certainly on the table to ask with between the geographic area coordinator and for that assignment and the local unit. That certainly can be in the discussion of, I would certainly be wanting to know what is the level of, whether it's low, moderate, or high at the local unit. And then, what is the option for a hybrid type of team or all virtual.
Okay, good. Okay, and we still got a couple more. We got a little bit of time before we go to the next presentation, so we'll take them. Somebody's asking a question about the digital library being updated and needing to review to make posted items editable on that. Somebody want to take that one? I know that we are trying to encourage team leaders to use the digital library, and if they create something, not everything they create, but if they create some unique products, to use the digital library in the process that we have to get things uploaded there. I would say that if you are using it and you see something wrong or something that's not editable or something that you would like to see modified within the digital library, to probably contact, don't mean to put it all on your shoulders, Zach, but as the chair, probably Zach Ellinger, shoot him an email and then he'll contact the appropriate person or persons and we'll deal with that at a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, Fred, I'll be honest with you, the last time I tried to use the digital library, it wasn't working right. I didn't have time to try to fix it. So we need to revisit the digital library and make sure that if people are taking the time to upload materials, that they are being reviewed. And I think that's where the hangup is. I think there's probably multiple products in the review cache/bin folder that haven't been cleared, and it may be creating a bit of a jam. So I will make the commitment to look into that and follow up with this entire group when I have a definitive answer.
Well, we probably can take that to the CEPC and the subcommittee and with the support staff from NWCG and figure out what's what on that, Zach, probably. Here's another
Dennis has
question.
his hand up.
Oh, okay. Dennis? I missed it.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to let you know, Fred, that we do have the chat box is working properly now. So
Just
chat
for
away,
you?
folks.
Is that just for you or everybody?
No,
So
it's
that-
everybody.
Everybody.
Okay,
Everybody's got it now, so we're good.
I don't know how that happened, but I made Dennis a co-host and that opened it up for everybody. So good.
I
Great.
just hit a number of buttons and something finally works. So we're all
Yeah.
good.
Thanks. All right, we got a couple minutes left, Maureen, so let me check a couple more. How is a member with an RA affected by participating is what I meant. Oh, maybe I kind of missed that one. So, yeah, I guess somebody that has, needing a reasonable accommodations, participating on a team. Again, I go back to the host unit and the requesting unit and making sure that all that discussion is handled at that
Right.
level.
Well, I guess it would have, I'm answering this assuming that the accommodation means that it's specific to COVID or the vaccination status, and it means that a person can't travel. Now, I'm assuming that. If it's different, then I apologize. But, if I would think that the team leader would be able to work with the host unit to determine if you can work virtually. And if you can, then you can be part of the team, if that works. So that's going to have to be negotiated with the host unit, that we can have somebody, working virtual if the rest of the team is there. I mean, so I don't know if the accommodations is something different, then we would work with that too.
That's definitely something the team leader needs to address with the host agency. So if you're a member and working for a team leader, make sure you have your team leader knows all that up front going into the team makeup so that they can get those questions answered and resolved early on. So yeah. Okay, so I will go ahead. We're going to move to the next presenter because I want to, like I said, be respectful of your time, and we'll go back and pick up the questions in the chat and the rest of the cadre, since you can get to them now. And Karen, maybe we could address them and get you answers either in the chat or at another time, either we have. So without any further ado, we're going to slip right into the next section on finances. And I have a recording from Gwen Bevins, who is going to present the first part of it, and Jim Funk is going to close it with a little comments on a tool that can help with the financial planning. So let's see if everything works fine. I'm going to share Gwen's presentation. So hang tight. We want to optimize it for video. We want to go here. Share. Hopefully you're seeing Gwen's presentation. Title slide.
Yep.
Okay, hit play.
Hi, my name's Gwen Bevins. I just recently retired from the USDA Forest Service as the branch chief for community mitigation and wildfire prevention. Thank you for asking me to speak today. I'm sorry that I could not be with you in person, and I hope this recording comes through well. I've been on a lot of FPETs, fire prevention education teams, over the years, and I've seen how the finances for those teams have changed, and of course how the cost of a team for 2 weeks has gone up. So I was asked if I would speak a little bit about that today. So I'll talk a little bit about what the prevention education team leaders' responsibilities are, and some considerations for when you're addressing and giving advice on how much a team's going to cost, as well as we'll cover what tracking you can do for the budget and what the expectations are for reporting. First of all, there's the delegation of authority. As a team leader, you will get called for assignment and you'll be asked to sign a delegation of authority. Many hosts have never had a team before, and they aren't aware of what it will cost for a team to be in place for 2 weeks. So before you put the pen to the paper and agree to how much it's going to cost, I strongly encourage you to give them some guidance and some advice. You can base this on your history, your experience. You can call up other team leaders and find out how much they have found that it costs. The team, the national coordinators can give you some help on that as well. And then also, while you've got them on the phone or chatting via email and discussing the DOA, also make sure that you know what you are approving. Are you signing people's CTRs, or are you signing their OF 288s, and their are people working on the assignment 100% for you, or are they also working for someone else? And then also, how do they want that sort of stuff communicated? How do they want purchases communicated? Is all that done through general messages? So those are just some things to think about while you have them on the phone. As far as considerations for finances, there's a lot that really goes into it nowadays. It's not just the standard 3 people go out on an assignment. And when I say the 3 people, that means the PETL, the prevention education team member, and a PIO. But you need to look at, okay, I'm going to need some specialists. Do I need a graphic artist? Do I need someone with maybe law enforcement skills? Are the base 8s of those people being covered by the host agency? If they're federal government with Forest Service and BLM and they already work underneath a fire code for at least half their time, then probably their base 8 is going to be covered by their government. Some state employees don't get paid. Well, they get paid, but they don't get paid their base 8 by that assignment either. So the state would cover them. There's also this opportunity now to have people work intermittently for you. It could be either somebody that's from the host agency that will just provide some help to you. So maybe they're going to charge to the time for the assignment. Or maybe it is someone that is hired up on your team, but it's just on an intermittent status versus a full-time status. And then you need to look at location. Are you going to be on site, or is it going to be a virtual team? And of course, there's a huge difference there on the expenses. Or is it going to be some sort of combination of the two? And then what's the per diem rate if you are going to be on site? And it's not always black and white anymore. There are some times when they are allowing more than 150% of per diem because of the lack of hotels that are available. There could be a special event going on, and so all the prices are higher. I think back to the solar eclipse. I didn't work that event, but I heard about some team members needing to sleep in cars or be at campsites. So it can really vary, and that's always something you should check into. And then this is a big one to ask before you even get there, is that what is their expectations regarding materials and supplies and products? Are you going to be using products that they or a partner has? Are you going to be purchasing stuff from someone who's already created it, like the Symbols Cache or the NASF store, or maybe an official licensee? Or are you going to be making stuff and needing to go to printers or to be doing small purchase agreements and that sort of thing? And what are the rules on that? Sometimes they have rules on how much you can spend, and they also have rules on how much you can buy, meaning number of products, number of brochures, and that sort of thing. And then supplies for the team. Is that going to be charged to that amount that you're saying that you're going to keep the team within? Things like ink for plotters or dry erase boards, anything like that. What is the agency going to cover, and what does get charged to the assignment? The other things that you need to ask about is how they would like the budget tracked. There's lots of good spreadsheets out there. There's one in particular that we use when we're teaching prevention education team member training. And some people have altered those a little bit. So there's a lot of choices, and I would just ask around and find one that you're comfortable with. Or the host agency might have some way specifically that they'd like you to track it. There might be more than one job code. There may be several job codes or job codes from partners that they want you to track. They might have different funding rules with it. They might want you to spend all of one job code first before you spend another partner's money. It could be that some of the funding can only pay for materials. Some of the funding can only pay for salaries. So check into all of that. As I mentioned before, there's also a lot of people that their base 8 is not charged directly to the assignment. So I like to think of it as what's the total cost of the assignment, and then what's the actual cost that that assignment is going to be charging. I like to keep track of those because nationally it's good to be able to answer someone when they say, well, how much does it cost to put an FPET in for 2 weeks? That should be the total cost, because someone's got to pay for that base 8 or that overtime or for those supplies. So I like to have that total, everything all bundled up. This is one number that costs for the whole 15 days or 16 days if you've got travel. And then this is how much we actually charge to that one job code that you gave us that we talked about for the DOA. The other thing is how do they want you to report? How often should you report? I've heard some people get asked like every day to provide an update. I've never been asked that myself, but if that's what they want, then you need to be able to provide that. And who do they want you to report that to? Sometimes they don't want the whole world to know about it. So they might give you just their name as the host agency FMO or as the fire chief, or it might just be that one person, might be just a budget person they want you to update once halfway through and then at the end. I'm not sure, but just make sure you ask that question. And then also, what's their process if you are getting close to the amount that they've actually given you? How do they want you to notify them, and within how many days or how many hours? I was on an assignment recently where the forest was in the middle of the opportunity to put in for more severity dollars. So they wanted us to not only tell them what we had charged, but what was going to be coming up for the rest of our assignment, and also if they thought they should bring on another team. So you might be asked to do that as well, to predict some of those costs for them. And then where do they want you to file that information? So you have this really great budget spreadsheet, you've tracked everything, and you might mention it in the closeout. That would be another thing to ask them if they're okay and comfortable with that, because lots of times on the closeout, you do have partners and other people on that call, aside from maybe those that you've just been working with for the last 2 weeks. But I tend to file the budget spreadsheet on Pinion. That's where I use a lot of our that's been a good way to file things that have some of that more detailed nitty-gritty information. We give access to the host, and they get to have all that stuff. I tend not to put it on FireNet just because it is a little more personal in nature. It's not PII, but it does have people's salaries and that sort of thing in it. So that's just something else to think about and to ask the host agency right at the beginning. So hopefully you understand a little bit more about what your responsibilities are as a PETL when it comes to managing the finances for your team, some of the considerations that you should go through when you're tracking those expenses, and as I mentioned before, how to track them and where you're going to report that information and where you're going to file that information. And with that, that's all I've got for today. If you have any questions, you can reach me at gbevans@gmail.com. And hopefully, if you have urgent questions, they will get answered at the end of this webinar today by some of the experts that are on this call. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. Thank you. Hopefully everybody enjoyed that little presentation from Gwen. Before I turn it over to Jim, a couple questions came up, but I will mention one thing. With financing, you really got to find ways to stretch your dollars and take your biggest advantage of the funds you have. And, as they say, when in Rome, you got to play, do as the Romans do. So, if you're Forest Service and you're spending Forest Service funds, there's GPO requirements of going through them. If you're not, that doesn't mean you can't go through GPO. So you just know the rules, and don't be afraid of some of these requirements. Actually, they may end up being very helpful to you in getting your products produced at a really reasonable rate. So great. I have a note here. Gwen says that she's on. If anybody does have a question specifically for Gwen, she was able to join us. Gwen, are you there?
Can people hear me? I am
can.
here. Okay. If people do have questions, we can address those now, or we can listen to Jim next.
Okay. Well, while I'm pulling Jim's presentation, just his couple slides up. Any questions for Gwen as we're going to slide into Jim's? Okay. Give me a second. Right, share screen. Share. Okay, Jim, can you see the screen?
Yeah, I can. Thank you. I
Okay,
appreciate that.
and hopefully everybody can hear him. So it's yours, Jim.
Good deal. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Funk, and I'm a team leader. I'm on the prevention subcommittee, team leader and team member qualified. I do that as well. I currently reside in Virginia, and I have had the pleasure of working with quite a number of you that that are on this call. So, to all of those, hey, and I hope to be able to meet the rest of you someday in person. So I've been around since doing teams since 2004, and so I've run into a lot of kind of wide variety of situations. People ask for different things in different settings. Some want a lot of detail. Some of them just want things generalized and maybe just a reporting in every week or so. But almost every time it comes down to some very basic things that they all ask for, pretty much standard. One of them, of course, is the total cost of the assignment. As Gwen mentioned, it's it's a thing where they're not only maybe wanting to know how much your assignment is going to end up costing, but they're also wanting to know if they brought in another team behind you, what would that cost? A lot of curiosity out there about what is the general cost of prevention teams, and the virtuals sometimes are half the cost of doing an in-person, but a lot of it depends on salaries, it depends on flights, and a lot of other factors that go into it. But the total cost is almost always asked for. Very often they do ask you to produce up-to-date costs. Like I say, maybe once a week. I have been asked for daily updates. Somebody was put in responsibility of the financial piece, and they want to make sure that things are on track. They also want to know that the team is actually capable of and coming up with reliable figures for them. That whole thing about your administration and the budget tracking, even though it seems like a kind of a minor task, it really adds to credibility and the professionalism of a team. I have been asked for, and it's been extremely useful whenever they talked about maybe adding another person. Can we do it within the budget that we're there, that we currently have, or how much more would it cost? So budget projections, we can do those, with the spreadsheet, and it's a very useful tool. And honestly, the more that we go into these teams, the more that it's been asked for. As Gwen mentioned, it's really important to find out what and how you're going to be tracking. Do that at the very beginning. Have those sit downs with with your host. Find out exactly what they want so that you can set the spreadsheet up in a way that is not going to consume a whole lot of time, and it's going to produce the results that you need. So that's really key to get done early on and make sure that that you get it set up correctly. As an administrative task, and I've always talked about this, it really should not be something that takes a lot of time. Once you have these budgets set up, maybe 15 minutes in the morning, if everybody gets their information in, you can go ahead and get this information into your budget. You can get your numbers and you're done with it. And then that way you can go on with the more important stuff. But budgets are always part of that assignment. It's in every delegation that I've ever been, associated with. As a team leader, you need to know how to set up that spreadsheet. To me, that's really important because you're not only sometimes you have all your team out and you've got to take care of the spreadsheet. Very often I'll do that just because I've got super productive people and I want them out doing things that I can handle some of the administrative tasks. But you may also have a new member that has never been exposed to to the spreadsheet, and you do a little bit of training with them. So it's really important for you to know all those budgets and make sure that you know what your options are available. Your spreadsheet is going to vary by the number of people that you have on the assignment and the number of codes that you're going to be using. My most extreme case was where we had 5 different budget codes that were being used. We had 5 different agencies, and they all had pieces of money that they put toward the project, and we needed to keep track of that and let each member know how much was being spent out of their piece of the pie. So that was important, and more now we're getting more than the 4-person or the 6-person, or even sometimes they've exceeded 10 people on a team. So all these things are important whenever you're choosing a spreadsheet. I generally use the 10-person spreadsheet with multiple codes for that reason, mainly because at the beginning you don't know that what your extent's going to be. Stephen Palmer, I do want to throw hats off to him. He is a prevention person with the Los Padres National Forest, with the Forest Service. He has taken the 6-person spreadsheet and made some revisions to it. I haven't had an opportunity to use it yet, but they look really good. I like what he's done, and I asked him if maybe he would be working on the 10-person spreadsheet and do the same thing. And I believe that he'll be doing that in the near future. So thanks to Stephen, and hopefully he'll be your contact for some of this budget spreadsheet information if there are issues. The group has agreed to establish a folder of budget spreadsheet templates in FireNet. And here again, this is another way that whenever you get on an assignment, if for some reason you're assigning an individual to handle your budget, they can go into this folder and they can pull out the spreadsheet that they want, and it's always going to be there for you. As with all administrative tasks, the more you streamline that process, the more time you have to do prevention work. And that's always been a focus of mine, is to try to minimize, I'll call it minimizing the pain of the administrative stuff, so you can get on to the good stuff and get more prevention work done. So if there are ever any questions, I can be contacted for synergy@gmail.com. So if you have any questions or comments about budget spreadsheets or anything, I'm always available. I'm an AD, but strongly committed to prevention teams and help anyone anytime I can. So thank you very much for your time and interest in wildfire prevention and prevention teams. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Great, Jim. All right, Jim, thanks a bunch. Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat, so we will proceed right into our final presentation. And just like with any briefing or incident or whatever, you kind of start with safety and end with safety. So I'd like to welcome Mark Thibodeau into the forum here to present a little safety presentation. Mark, are you there?
Yeah, hello. Can you see me and hear me?
I hear you and see you just fine, sir.
Okay, great. Mark Thibodeau. I am a fire prevention education team leader from the state of California. Sorry, it still says Zach Ellinger. We're currently on assignment together here in the Southwest. So yeah, I'm a Forest Service member of the subcommittee as well. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to come and listen to the presentation today. And we're all very hopeful that you take something valuable away from this webinar. My topic for the conversation today was IWI. And what does that stand for? It stands for incident within an incident. These can come in any number of different fashions and different ways that potential IWIs could come to fire prevention education teams. The list is long, right? We have a unique set of circumstances where maybe we're not dealing so much with fire, but we are indeed dealing with a lot of unique individuals and unique communities and social considerations that present special kinds of challenges and or opportunities for us as team members. So we like to, so physical and environmental. You know, the list can go on and on. Anything from shooting related instances to flooding, earthquakes. I think you get the idea. The list could go on and on and on. But a couple of the ones that we've seen over the years specifically would be driving vehicle related accidents, and also, just physical health, just health issues, so to speak. So it's not a matter of if something is going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. But there are some things you can do to address before an IWI happens within the team environment that I'd like to cover. I'd like to recommend when you're on teams, if you're a team member trainee or if you're a team member qualified or team leader, seasoned team leader, we like to recommend that folks upon the initial deployment of the team have a good understanding of each other, and based on the comforts that people have with each other, feel free to share information about any allergies or any routine maintenance that you may have to do for your physical health to remain healthy while you're on an assignment. Obviously, this is a voluntary disclosure of information. Nothing is required, but it never hurts to share a little bit. For instance, I'm a type 1 diabetic and I have no shame in that, and I like people to know it. So if there's ever an emergency, hopefully my team can help support me in that situation. We also like to encourage folks to share their emergency contact information with the team leader. Of course, the team leaders can always obtain emergency contact information, or at least route the emergency information to the appropriate dispatch center, and the connections will be made on the home unit. But if you do indeed prefer your team leader to be a point of contact and a point of a conduit for information sharing in that environment, please do share that emergency contact information based on your own comfort, your levels of comfort within your teams. We liked, before an incident would happen, again, we like to always have safety topics with the team every single day. Everyone is required to share a safety topic, and we document those safety topics, and we really get into it, getting down to the nitty gritty. So, maybe it will, in this situation where you're driving long hours and you get fatigued, maybe someone will remember that conversation and pull over and take that break that they need instead of getting into an accident. Like to, of course, work with the host agency to determine local influences for a medical plan and emergency procedures. Some agencies have certain capabilities that maybe others don't. For instance, the hospital liaisons can be made available on some instances and some agencies. For instance, I'm a representative from the Forest Service, and I know that my host unit oftentimes has hospital liaisons that will help you in the event of an emergency. And it's good as a leader or a team member to ask those questions, specifically during the in-brief, to see what might happen if an emergency does happen. Where's your come up with your own local medical plan. Knowing where the local hospital is and how to get there and what their capabilities are really important for the safety and of our teams. Like I said, it's not a matter of if, but when. So when it happens, remember that employee safety and care is the #1 priority, whatever it may be. If it's a heart condition, if it's a slip, trip, and fall, if it's an accident, if it's any number of things, remember that the employee safety and care is the #1 priority of the team. 3 people, 10 people, 20 people on a team, safety is the #1 priority. In the event you were to get into an accident or and you're in a remote location, Notifying dispatch is important, and those dispatch numbers can always be found on your resource order. But say you don't, but the number one thing is getting care immediately. So my recommendation, if the local unit does not have immediate emergency service, I would dial 911. Just dial 911 and get the appropriate care coming to the individual who needs it. Whether it be law enforcement or ambulance services. Law enforcement for non-injury motor vehicle accidents, and ambulances for injuries. Once the notification to 911 happens, it would be very grateful and very appreciative for the team leader if you were to notify your supervisor. And on the assignment, the prevention education team leader is in fact your supervisor. The supervisor will then contact dispatch or ask you to contact dispatch. You may have the key to the 8 line that they are looking for. And just in case everyone, want to make sure that everyone knows that on page 181 of the Incident Response Pocket Guide, your IRPG, is the 8 line. And so get yourself familiar with that. Never hurts to carry an IRPG with you, even on a prevention education team assignment. Dispatch is going to want to know those things verbatim, so it never hurts to have that printed out and or in your pocket ready to go. As stated before, when it happens, the local unit may have a hospital liaison. I would ask the safety officer or be in contact and know the safety officer's contact information to be able to get that process going as well. There's some paperwork and some documentation that a lot of times those folks are knowledgeable on and will be able to assist you in your time of need, where you should you have to go to the hospital. And then you're going to need a ride. If it's a distribution campaign and somebody is out by themselves and gets hurt somehow, some way, there's a possibility that they're going to need a ride back to wherever they need to be. So just be available for your team member and make sure that they get everything that they need. After the fact, it's always good to do an AAR, specifically about what happened and what lessons were learned, how we might better ourselves in the future to learn from our either challenges, successes, or mistakes. Never wrong to mention a mistake. Documentation is going to be important. So although you might not be filling out your 214s, it's probably going to be very, very important for you to fill out documentation and have that for your host unit. In the worst case scenario, critical incident stress management service could be a useful tool and is highly encouraged to use those services. We are a national resource, and we have the same capabilities and abilities to use the same services that are provided for everyone. That's all I have on IWIs. Unless there's any questions, I'd love to take them.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. I don't see any in the chat unless somebody popped something in here recently. So, and let's see. No, I think we're good. And we're right at the top of the hour. So I will turn it over to Zach to kind of close this webinar out. And before I turn over to him, I would thank everybody for taking their time and from me and being here. So take care, folks, and have a safe season.
Thanks, Fred. And thanks everybody for attending. We hope that you found some of this information useful. either way, we'd like to hear back from you. So please submit any feedback that you might have about how we can improve these webinars to anybody that was on the list of presenters today. And we'll incorporate those changes into next year's webinar. The other thing I wanted to do is thank Fred. As some of you may know, Fred is retiring very soon. And, this is probably one of his last official functions. And Fred, from me to you, man, I can't tell you how much our relationship has meant to me, and professionally and personally. And so I just wanted to take this time to thank you in front of the group and recognize your contributions to the fire prevention community. You will be sorely missed, sir. And I hope you don't just disappear. And we've talked about that
Yeah,
already.
I'll be around. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah. So with that, I'll let you all go, and appreciate again your attendance. And if you have any questions or follow-ups, please reach out to me directly or any of the presenters, and we'll be happy to follow up.
And give
Thank
us
you,
a few
everybody.
days and we'll get this posted on FireNet. Thanks, folks.